guys, it's Rick. Welcome back to the HDVIBE channel. If you'd like to see more tips, tricks, rides, reviews, installs on my Harley Touring motorcycles, as well as information about motorcycles and the motorcycle community at large, I ask that you please hit that subscribe button. And when you do subscribe, please leave a comment down below saying I subscribe so I can personally reach out and thank you for supporting the channel. Also, don't forget to hit that bell icon and select all so that you do get notified every time I do put out new content. So I'm here today with the 2021 Road Glide Special that you may have seen on my reveal video, and if not, I will have a link to that down in the description. But the first thing I want to do to this bike is relocate this ugly whip antenna that you will find on these Road Glide Special, Street Glide Special, and there's a variety of reasons to relocate it. For me, more than anything, it's aesthetics on the back of this bike. I've done this similar process on my Street Glide Special, but also you need to really relocate that whip antenna if you ever want to put an aftermarket or Harley Davidson tour pack of any kind on there, because it will interfere with that antenna. So you either need to put a really short antenna or you need to relocate it. So what I'm going to do today is show you how to do that for free. No extra parts that you need to buy. And the radio works pretty well, just about as well as an in-fairing antenna. So with that, I'm going to show you step by step how to do it. I need to get these saddlebags off, get the seat off, and we'll get into it right after this. So guys, I've gone ahead and taken off the saddlebag as well as the side cover and the seat, so that we can go ahead and get started on relocating the antenna, again, for free. All you'll need is a socket and a 3/16 hex head bit to put on there to loosen the screw for the bracket. Okay, so the first step on relocating this antenna, obviously, is to just twist off this big whip antenna off of the bracket. So it just unscrews like so. And get that out of the way for just a few minutes. We're gonna still need this, so we'll come back to that in just a minute. So the next step is to loosen the bolt on this bracket that is actually holding that antenna right down in here. And again, that is a 3/16 Allen socket head. So just loosen that up. And remove that. Again, keep this because you will be reusing that. So now that I've got the bracket loose, I'm actually going to kind of maneuver this bracket through there, and then this is what you have. This is the actual bracket that sits on this brace, this frame brace. This is where the antenna was screwed onto. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to remove this coax cable from this connector like this, and we'll pull that out. So that frees this up. So in order to do this, I need to flip this bracket around. I need to remove this coax cable, but as you can see, it won't go through because of the rubber grommet. This rubber grommet does have a split in it, which I can then use the split to be able to push this rubber grommet back through this bracket so that I can then feed this cable back out through here. So I will go ahead and do that, and we'll come right back. So as you can see, the grommet is split, and I pulled that out. So now that will slide right through there. What I'm going to do is move this connector for the antenna to this hole, and then put this grommet either back in here, or I'll just save this if I ever would need it and if I ever switch this back around. But essentially then the orientation of this bracket is this way, and you can still get the antenna through there. So now I'm going to remove this antenna connection off of this bracket. So I basically just loosened that nut. I'm going to take this off. So now I've removed this original antenna connection off of its original hole in the bracket, and I've moved it up to where the cable actually used to come at, where I removed that rubber grommet. And now we'll just go ahead and tighten this nut. That hole is just a little bit bigger, so don't be concerned about that. Once you do tighten it, as you can see, it pretty much fills that gap with these two nuts that are on here. And then I would just give it a little bit of a crank here just to tighten it down to make sure that it doesn't come loose. And there you have it. So you essentially retrofitted this bracket so that it orients like this when it's on the bike. And this will allow you then to connect that antenna back on here. And we'll run this coax cable. We can go ahead and reconnect that now onto the antenna connector, just like this. And just make sure that's tight. And then we can use our bolt that we originally took out, slide this back up, actually in the same orientation that it was when it was originally on the bike. I've essentially just flipped this connection around. I've used the same bracket to reattach the antenna. So I still have an antenna. And the next step of this is I would keep this rubber grommet that was in that other hole in a safe place. If you ever do want to flip this around, I'll probably just put this in the saddlebag in a box or a little bag of parts that I have in there. The next step is we're going to run the antenna. We're going to run it through the frame rail here. And there's going to be a little spot that comes out right here where your seat is. And then we're going to run that up here. So let me grab the antenna and we'll do that now. So here's the antenna, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is just fish this up through the frame. And there you can see it's already come through. So the best way to do this, once you've actually fed the antenna up through here, is make sure this is still a little bit loose so you have a little bit of play so that you can actually get this antenna threaded on here properly. And then once you get it threaded, see there, I kind of got it straight. We can go ahead and screw that back on. There it goes, it caught. So we'll screw that back onto the connection. And then what I'll do, so you can see this tab here on the frame needs to be oriented like that. So essentially what that does is by tightening that down, this keeps the antenna wire that's running up to the front of the bike, to the infotainment system, and the antenna well clear, keeps it all well clear of this belt drive that's here, and it's nowhere near the wheel. So some people don't actually reverse this bracket. This is my little tip, and this is the way I like to do it. I've never seen anybody else do it this way. So that you don't have to worry about this cable getting in the way of the wheel or the belt or the antenna. It's actually, it's tight and it's not going anywhere. And as you can see, once I tighten this up, it actually keeps this well clear of everything that's going on under here from a wheel belt perspective. So I like that orientation myself. A lot of people will just leave this bracket turned the original way, disconnect the antenna, and then reconnect the wire and then cable tie all this up here. So my only concern with that is that cable tie ever fails and this falls into your wheel or your belt drive, you're gonna mess something up and cause an issue. The antennas come through the frame right up here along the rail. You can actually just push it up in the frame here, and that kind of keeps it down and out of the way. So I've never done, on my other bike I have it up here, so I may actually just kind of leave it in this frame. I kind of like that orientation as well. And then if you like, you can zip tie this. There's a zip tie right here for some other cables, so if you want to re-zip tie that, but it's basically underneath your seat, so it's not going to get in the way of anything, especially when it's up under here under the frame. So now as you can see, we have, this is the original plug that was in that fascia. This is the one that was open for the antenna to come through. You can actually buy these rubber grommets from your local Harley Davidson dealer, and basically this just pops out and you can pop this blank in there, if you will, and then you basically have a cleaned up back end on this motorcycle. You have no antennas. So that's what the final product looks like. Again, I'm using the original bracket. I have this antenna secured in here. I have the cable, the coax cable running from the boom system to the antenna is secure. It's not going to rattle around. It's not. There's no chance of it getting in the drive belt or the tire. The antenna is safe up here. I've run it into the frame. Yeah, so the only thing I have left to do, I put the side cover back on here, put the saddlebag on here, put the seat back on. If you're doing this in your garage, I would say from start to finish, you're probably looking at about a 15-minute process just to flip this around, flip that nut around. And you've really cleaned up, in my opinion, cleaned up the back of the bike. So guys, that was pretty easy. Again, it was free. I didn't have to put an in-fairing antenna on this bike. And I will say from a reception perspective, right now I'm in the garage. I'm actually getting the same reception on my infotainment system as I did when the antenna was up. I can't say that that would be the case all the time. So obviously, you know, Harley engineers engineer these antennas to be up and out the back end of these bikes for probably the best performance in terms of picking up a signal. And now I've run it up underneath the seat. But without me sitting on the bike and it being in the garage, which typically I don't get really good reception in my garage, all of these channels I've gone through what I typically would listen to on the radio, and they're all coming in actually very clear. And again, it's not, I don't typically use the radio when I'm out riding the bikes anyway. I typically Bluetooth in with my phone. In this case with the Boombox GTS 6.5 system, this has, on the 2021, it actually has Android Auto capability, so I will just put my Samsung phone in and connect it in and use my music that way. So again, you know, it's free. You don't have to buy a $100 plus Harley Davidson in-fairing antenna. J&M makes one if you do want to go that route. For instance, on my Street Glide Special, I've actually routed the stock antenna underneath the seat to clean up the back end. I've then also put a splitter on the actual infotainment system, and I actually run the in-fairing antenna as well as the antenna underneath, and that helps with reception somewhat. But again, I think on this bike I'm not going to put an in-fairing antenna. So far I'm very pleased with the performance that I've gotten, and flipping through all my local radio stations here that I would typically listen to, no issues there. The back of the bike is cleaned up. You know, I do have, again, those ugly rubber grommets on the back of the bike, but I don't have that big old whip antenna flying around. And, you know, I found when I'm working on the bike in the garage, that antenna can smack you in the face or poke you in the eye or whatever the case may be, or when you're walking around these bikes. When you're out in the parking lot somewhere, you know, people run into them. Not a huge deal, but for me, it just cleans up the bikes. None of my bikes have antennas on the back of them. Even my Street Glide Special that has the CB module in it, I don't have an antenna. I run it in the fairing, and my reception is decent on that as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about that in the comments if you shoot me a question on that. So the only other thing I would say is, if you do not like those ugly rubber grommets, Custom Dynamics has a solution for you. They do have the antenna grommet lights, LED lights that will go in there that do run, brake, and turn. I have installed those both on the 2015 Street Glide Special as well as the 2019 Road King Special. At some point I probably will put those on here, because it just, again, those rubber grommets, I don't like them. But for the time being, they're fine. It looks a lot better than having that big antenna out there. So again, guys, you know, lots of things to come on the 2021 Road Glide Special. I'm getting out riding this bike more. The more I ride it, the more I like it. It's not to say that I like it better or worse than the Street Glide or the Road King Special, but it's just a little bit different feel. We have, again, like I said, a lot of things coming in terms of content around installations, around different things that I'm going to be doing on the bike, upgrades, everything from lighting, you know, Custom Dynamics, obviously will be going on the bike. They're helping out with that, so I appreciate that. We're looking at windshield options, seat options, slip-on options. I won't be doing a stage 1 on this just yet. It's still under warranty, and so like the 2019 Road King Special, I'll be waiting on that. So, you know, that's a lot. Again, I appreciate everyone watching, and if you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel tremendously. And with that, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Life is short. Get out and ride the bike. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye now.